Who was the dumbest person you ever met? How did you know? Girl in my class asked the professor if other countries have moons, too. I had a guy at work tell me that Benjamin Franklin was the 100th president because he's on the $100 bill. She thought I was trying to trick her into believing that Adolf Hitler was real. Edit, thank you for my first silver, kind stranger. I know a guy who thinks the special tea he drinks negates the negative health effects of his pack-a-day smoking habit. I went to school with a girl that legitimately thought 9/11 was done by German Nazis. I know a guy who vapped mercury on a dare. We hired a girl a couple years ago. I told her where the manager's office was her first day. Second day, she asked me where the manager's office was, so I walked her to the door. Third day, she asks me where it is again. Our manager chewed out the girl who trained our new recruit for not teaching the job properly. The trainer pulled out her phone and showed the manager a picture of the girl wearing the uniform backwards and said, "Look at this. This is untrainable." New girl got fired about 3 weeks later for stealing the product because she thought she got it for free because she was an employee. Edit, some of you are kind enough to give her the benefit of the doubt about not finding the office. Unfortunately, this office was located on the second floor, which consisted of a hallway with a single door, and nothing else. It wasn't possible to get lost. Also, spelling. I remember proofreading a paper for a freshman my roommate had the hots for. It was on Jonathan Swift's _ a modest proposal _, but somehow this freshman didn't catch that it was satire. The opening lines of the paper are burned into my memory. Eating children would not be a good thing to do. In fact, we could say it would be bad. I used to work with the nicest person I've ever met, but he was also the dumbest. Even though he had been there over a year, he couldn't do anything beside washing dishes without someone watching over him. He just could not figure out how to do anything on his own. Someone, usually me, would have to watch over every little thing he did to make sure he was doing it right. It would have been frustrating if he wasn't the nicest damn person on earth. He was always so happy to see you and did everything with a smile on his face. Luckily he could wash dishes like a fucking beast. I'm not exaggerating when I say he could wash dishes faster and cleaner than anyone I have ever met. That's the reason he would do other stuff, is because he washed dishes so damn fast we'd have to find other stuff for him to do. His wife was normal and all his kids were doctors or engineers. They were all crazy smart. What was kind of sad is that he knew he wasn't the smartest, but he was so damn nice. I had a boss who told me that she never kept leftovers from a meal because that's how polio got started. I was working in a French company. We were working with a dev team in Vietnam on some IT project. The project manager they report to in HQ is French. They didn't like him and he knew it. The Vietnamese team did some great job. He wanted to find the correct words to congratulate them, hoping to smoothen the future relationship. He sent that incredible thank you email. When we see the quality of your work, we can only realize how sad it is that we lost you guys as a colony. The French expats in the Vietnam office told me they were hiding in shame for a full week. Edit, I never thought I would be that guy, but thank you, kind strangers, for le or a le argent smiley face. Edit 2, for those of you saying this is typical Frenchness, I am French myself and all the other French in PCC were just as WTF as I was. A girl in an AP US history class laughed at me when I was talking about driving to Alaska from Oregon. She insisted Alaska was an island because of how it is separated out on maps like this. I don't know if she was the dumbest person I met overall, but it was certainly the dumbest thing someone insisted they were right about. Edit, I am happy this turned out to be educational. My sister-in-law is an anti-vaxxer and believes her kid's cerebral palsy was caused by vaccines despite the kid being born with 1/4 of her brain physically missing. A girl in my class in middle school genuinely thought people had landed on the sun. Her explanation for this belief was to insist that the moon and sun are made of the same stuff. I asked a temp at work to weigh a couple of lever arch files for postage. She came back and told me they were 65 kilograms. I asked if it were possible that it was 6.5 kilograms, but she insisted it wasn't. We argued about it for a good 5 minutes. It wasn't until I asked her how much she weighed, 59 kilograms, that it finally twigged that these two small folders couldn't possibly weigh more than her. A guy at a job site said this to me in all seriousness, I am quoting. If Hitler had put all the Jews on the Titanic, he could have saved himself a lot of trouble. I felt like I had a stroke. A friend that told me that drinking protein shakes means that my muscles are all fake and fat. A girl in my sophomore year of high school who thought there were 6 months in a year. She was really nice, but very surprised and confused when we tried to set her right. I live in southern Spain. I once met a girl from the US who was here on some kind of exchange program. When I asked her how did she like Spain so far, she said, I'm loving it, I just don't know why the plane took so long to get here. I mean, we are just a bit below Mexico. I don't know why the flight was so long. Then I told her that we were in Europe, and she didn't believe me. Her reply was, Europe? It can't be, everyone speaks Spanish, so we must be somewhere near Mexico for sure. She was in uni, I still don't know how or why. He had just purchased a new, high-powered BB gun. We had just finished shooting it in the backyard when he points the barrel at my face and pulls the trigger several times. I tell him to stop being an idiot and he just laughs and says it's not loaded. Then the moron puts the barrel in his mouth and pop. Shoots a BB right through his tongue and into his uvula. Edit: for those asking why it shot him and not me, I was sitting down so the end of the barrel was at a downward angle. When Genius shot himself, the barrel was at an upward angle, causing the last BB to roll down to the back of the ammo tube and into the chamber. A girl in my art class in high school thought there was just a part of the cow called meat. When we explained meat is the muscles, she freaked out and became vegetarian. This dude I worked with for 3 days. He was hired to be a fabricator, which is mostly cutting metal and welding stuff up. He claimed to have welded for many years, which we very quickly realized was an embellishment. Within his first 2 days he got into a heated verbal argument with a coworker that advised him to not smoke cigarettes in the shop right next to multiple tanks of incredibly flammable gases. Told our manager to fuck off and let him do his job. Manager was trying to tell him what to do. Started a decently large fire because he didn't clean the floor underneath where he was welding. And then started yelling at people trying to tell him there's a fire. Smoking blunts on the job, with no attempts to be discreet. By some miracle he managed to ruin a welder and 2 grinders beyond repair. And on top of all this he had this smug I'm better than everyone else attitude. He was promptly fired on the 3rd day and had the audacity to argue with management about it before storming out and flooring it out of the parking lot, running down the shop's mailbox. Edit: removed part about his welds breaking and causing damage. That wasn't him. I was thinking of another temp employee from a year prior. Oops. Was working at a grocery store over a decade ago. I wouldn't call the kid dumb, because he just didn't know, it's more of a funny thing. He was new and the manager asked him to face the store when he asked what he could do. Facing means you make sure the aisles look nice and neat and that the product is pulled forward and visibly facing you as you walk down the aisle. The kid couldn't be found until someone told the manager one of the workers was just standing in the parking lot facing the store. I will never forget that. Edit: holy guacamole, thanks the gold and silvers kind strangers. Oh Lord, strap in, this is a ride. Let me tell you about Sarah. Now, Sarah was, and remains to be, one of the sweetest girls I've ever met. She's the sort of girl who would give you the shirt off her back, and not think twice. The sort of woman who would allow a stranger to stay in her home without question. She routinely gives money to charity, and helps volunteer. She really is an angel. But Christ, is that girl dumb. When we were in high school, I mentioned that I one day wanted a small farm, something just big enough so I could raise chickens. I've always liked chickens, and you get fresh eggs too. She looked at me like I had 3 heads and said, if you want eggs, you need goats. This girl had made it to our senior year in high school without knowing where eggs came from. Our class was talking about a fellow student who had been diagnosed with a very serious illness. His girlfriend announced that he had realized something was wrong when he began urinating blood. Sarah piped up with, "Oh my God, he isn't sick. He just got his period. I've had mine for like 4 years." Sarah and I were once driving her car, in the late 90s, and her car battery died. We were only a mile away from my house, so I walked there, grabbed my car, and headed back. I parked, and lifted her hood. She asked what I was doing. I told her I was going to connect the jumpers, because her battery had died. This girl looked right at me and said my car runs on gas, not batteries. She legitimately had no idea that fish, the food, came from actual living fish. She decided she wasn't going to eat meat anymore. She would text me at all hours asking if the food she was about to eat was meat or not. I literally had to coach this woman, we were well out of high school at this point, on what meat products come from what animals. She still doesn't believe that tofu isn't from an animal. She thought France was in Canada. She thought all of South America was like North America, and one single country. She didn't believe that there was a North and South Pole. She asked me how planes ever got where they were going when the Earth was spinning so fast. And then followed up with, "Oh, I get it. They just go up and sit still until the place comes to them, right?" She thought hippos were made up, like unicorns. Thanks for watching. What would be your response? Leave it in the comments and see what the others say. Please also like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. Until next time, take care.